Today, we're talking about something very niche. A lot of people probably didn't know this exists, and many probably didn't know that they didn't know. Better yet, many just don't care. I'm talking about limited Flairs in Pokemon TCG Pocket. Welcome back to another video, it's Bro Vinny here. What are limited Flairs? I'm sure many of you by now know what a Flair is. When you go to examine your card and go to obtain items, you can exchange for these cosmetic things that give you flair during battle or for your display binder. Typically, there are 4 Flairs for every card. The gold Flair, which is pretty standard for every card. And then 3 subsequent Flairs that you have to unlock one after another at increasing shine dust cost. The order of which these Flairs appear though may differ from account to account dependent on which booster pack you picked at the start of the game, whether you picked Mewtwo, Pikachu or Charizard. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about a 5th Flair in this series that are available for certain cards during events. One of the reasons why many people don't know about this is because, well, they don't show up on your account when it's not during the event period. So I don't even know that I'm currently missing a limited Flair. To see all of the limited Flairs in this game, I can find them in Rainanex's website under limited Flairs. If you didn't know, currently there are 4 cards which have limited Flairs that you cannot obtain outside of the event that has already gone. And typically there's only a 1-week period that you can obtain these limited Flairs. So for example, Arcanine EX has this Circles Flair that was available for a 1-week period back in November 2024. Zapdos EX has this Star Outlines Flair that was available at the end of 2024. Mew EX had the Circles Flair Light Blue towards the end of January, and Weavile EX had the Purple Burst Flair at the end of February. Unfortunately, if you haven't exchanged for any of these limited time Flairs, currently there's no way to obtain them unless you trade for them. So if you're a collector, you probably don't want to miss out on these limited Flairs. But besides for collection purposes of these limited items, there's one more reason why you might want to consider getting these limited Flairs during those events. And the reason is, well, the shine dust cost is quite low comparatively. It's only 720 shine dust and 1 of that card in order to get the limited Flair, which is equivalent to getting the regular base Flair, that is the Sparkles Gold cosmetic. Compared to getting the other cosmetics like the Sword Flash or the Small Stars or the Tiny Twinkles Flair for Weavile EX, the limited option is the cheapest. And considering that they are one-off things so far, we haven't had any reruns of these limited Flairs, maybe they'll be very good value as trade tokens in the future. Of course, you can only trade a card that has a Flair with another card that has a Flair as well. But if yours is a limited Flair, maybe yours will be worth a little bit more than your trading partner. So if you haven't collected any limited Flairs and you want to start, let me give you some tips. In order to know what's coming next, go to limited Flairs in the Rainanex website and go to upcoming starting in the next 7 days. And we currently know that the Leafeon EX will be next to get a limited Flair. So you check out the Leafeon card and scroll down. The Flair that has an ending time, well, that's the limited Flair. So Flareon will be getting the White Petals Flair. But don't forget that in order to exchange a Flair, you must have at least 2 copies of that card remaining after the exchange. So for example, I've got 2 Zapdos EX here, but I still cannot exchange for any Flairs because in order to exchange, I'll need to have 3, so that by the end of the exchange, I'll be left with at least 2. And each Flair will cost you 1 card in the 4 diamond rarity. And on top of that, some shine dust as well. Furthermore, if you want to use 2 copies of a card, let's say you want 2 Zapdos EX, both to have that Flair in a deck, well, you'll actually need to exchange that Flair, that same Flair, twice. So in preparation for Leafeon EX Flair exchange, you need to have either 3 of Leafeon EX or 4 if you want to exchange its Flair twice. Unfortunately for me, I've only got 1 Leafeon EX. I didn't open that many Triumphant Light packs for me to have multiple copies. The way to get more copies of that card that you need for the limited flare is, well, during the affiliated event. So the Mass Outbreak event for grass types has Leafeon EX in the Chansey picks. And that's where you have a chance to get extra copies of those cards. Regardless, keep your eyes peeled for the Mass Outbreak events, which are tied to the event period for the limited flare exchange. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll leave a link to this website in the description below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video where we talk about ways to earn Shine Dust and the Shine Dust cost for Flairs exchange. Look at how much more dust it costs to exchange a Crown Rare.